Hi Taurus, welcome to your June 2020 Astro Alchemy. It's Serena here. I have some great news. And this is because there is action in your second house of earned income, the house that you rule. And sometimes people get confused about that because I talk about the houses that are ruling a person's chart. And that is based upon your rising sign, or if you're watching for your sun sign. That's different than the universal chart, which everything is based upon. So, for instance, your second house is Gemini because you're the first house, right? And of course, I'm being general because sometimes people have more than one sign in a particular house if you're using the unequal house system, which I personally do. And it's so funny. I just want to say a side note about that is some people use the whole house system. And when I was first starting out, way before there were computer generated charts, this was in the 80s, I remember trying to construct my own chart based upon the instructions in a book and doing it by hand. And I mean, that that was quite an undertaking. I'm very proud of myself for being able to do that because I'm not like a mathematical whiz by any stretch of the imagination. And so I did the whole house system, and it's very interesting because I feel like even that could have been apropos for me personally in terms of how I resonated with the material. And the bottom line is that you can use different methods to get different results, and there may be some things that seem more accurate to you than others. And even types of astrology. You might prefer Vedic astrology to Western astrology, who knows? But the bottom line is that I feel you can resonate with just about anything. It's like a tarot reading. You can resonate with just about anything. So the key to me is about you using the information for the purpose of self-empowerment and evolving yourself, self-evolution, rather than just predictive reasons or just for the fun of it, but really like, how can I utilize this information, regardless of what method I'm using, to get to that next level that I want to get to. So for you, Gemini is the second house, and you have the sun there, you have Venus retrograde here. Venus is going to be in Gemini all month long. Venus does go direct on the 25th. So if you've been experiencing financial slowdown for any reason, or just it feels like things are not connecting, do not worry. This is a temporary transit, but do try to look at it at a deep level to see if maybe there's something on your end that is requiring you to perhaps look at your life beyond just dollars and cents. Because the second house can be, of course, it can be the money that you earn, it can be your possessions, but it can also be your values. And when Venus is retrograde, sometimes those internal matters come to the surface or become more prominent in any case. So the big news is that there are eclipses in June. One of them is the Lunar Eclipse on the 5th of the month in Sagittarius. For you, this is the 8th house. And this is the house of death. So suffice it to say that this can be an area that sees the letting go of something, of an obsession or maybe the purging of something. It can even be on the physical level, even though this is a psychological house, because we're talking about what the results will be. So in addiction, I've read them talk about the 8th house as possible addictions. And for those who are born in the last 14 degrees of Taurus, this is going to occur in your opposite house of the 7th house of committed partnership. So for those in that boat, this can be related to your significant other if you have one. And perhaps it's a releasing of that person. If you are already on the rocks, the relationship is not good, but you have a hard time letting go. You know, Taurus tends to fixate on things, being a fixed sign, and hold on to things. If your moon sign is in Cancer, that maybe make you much more emotionally clinging to something that is ready to let go of. But this can be even like insight that you gain about your significant other or about relationships in general. One thing to note is that Uranus is currently transiting through Taurus. So Taurus people may be uncharacteristically wanting freedom, and that can lead to doing kind of unexpected things, being rebellious in certain ways. And you may decide, it might be like an aha moment, hey, I don't want to be in a relationship. And so you let go of that idea. Maybe you're like, really, you know, let's say you're a Taurus who's pushing 30 or pushing 40, and you think, I have to have a serious relationship by this time. And you just let it go. You let go of that idea because you realize it's an illusion, first of all. If you're meant to be with somebody, you will be. And by doing that, you may meet that person after all. This can even be for people who are dating. You just decide, we've dated long enough. I just want us to move on in our life. It's like the lunar eclipse is a powerful full moon, so it can bring things to the heightened state. It's kind of like, in some cases it can be a crisis, but in some cases it can be the apex. And, you know, if you're living with somebody and you're not happy about that, you think that it still is not the ultimate expression of what you're looking for, and then you say, hey buddy, or hey honey, let's do this, and you do it, and you do it like very quickly. Maybe you've both been kind of resistant, and you let go of that resistance. On the 18th, we have Mercury retrograding at 14 degrees of Cancer. This will be in that 3rd house of communication. Oops, that's a house that Mercury rules. So for some of you, this is actually going to be in the 2nd house. If you're in that last, kind of like what I said about the lunar eclipse, it also is fitting for this Mercury retrograde. So in the last half of the sign of Taurus, from 15 degrees of Taurus onwards, this will be in the 3rd house. The 2nd house, and this can be more about your money situation, rethinking it. Again, you have Venus. Well, some of you, I don't know. That's why I don't like to get too in the weeds with this, because those people who have the Mercury retrograde in the 2nd house may have the Venus retrograde in the 1st house. You know, depending on what degree of Taurus you have. I have a late degree of Taurus. I have 26 degrees. So these transits are occurring in my 2nd and 1st houses. And some of you may be the same. But again, just like I said with Venus retrograde, any kind of snafus or things not flowing as they should could be good for, can get resolved. And the other thing too, like if you were owed money and something, the check get all screwed up, don't worry, it'll all work out. Or something, how they say the check is in the mail and it just seems like it's not there. You'll get it when you're meant to get it, the divine timing, so to speak. And with Venus, those people who have Venus transiting through their second house, this may be money that you get that's owed to you. Who knows? And for people who have Mercury actually retrograding in the third house, this is a house that Mercury rules. So it is about all things communication. So, and it can be with siblings, neighbors, aunts and uncles, I think, and cousins. So any kind of like misunderstandings, or I would even say difference of opinion. Don't worry, this too shall pass, it's temporary. On the 21st, we have a solar eclipse at 0 degrees of Cancer. So just like this is actually for everybody, unless you're born on like April 22nd or so. If you're literally like 0 degrees of Cancer, depending on what year it is, April 22nd, April, maybe even as early as April 19th, I think this year, that the sun went into Taurus. Did it not? I can't remember. But, in that vicinity, if your sun is at 0 degrees of, or your rising sign 0 degrees of Taurus, this will be in that third house. For the rest of you, it'll be in the second house. I'm looking forward to this because this could be planting seeds for income streams, maybe ideas for making money. And, ideas for making money is about how to do it in a way that is giving you freedom. It's not just about, anybody can go and get a job. And really, like Taurus, you're very straightforward, and I don't think a lot of Taurus people have a problem working for others, because as a fixed sign, you probably prefer it. Overall, obviously, some of you have inner planets in Gemini that makes you more open to change and open to things not being predictable, so to speak. And your moon sign could be in any sign, including Aries, and you could be kind of like enjoy the challenge of working for yourself. And even if you have times where it's not as, there's an instability when you work for yourself. There's no guarantees. You don't know what you're going to make from week to week. So, or at least I think a lot of people don't. I'm sure there might be some who have locked in a system of sorts. But some people don't really mind that, because then the potential for making more money is great. So that just always lures them in and keeps them wanting that. Or the enjoyment of autonomy is more important than the sense of predictability or safety, that financial security. So some of you don't really care about that, but you might find that you are uncharacteristically interested in freedom with Uranus in your sign, or that you say, hey, I can keep my day job, but I want to do this on the side. And something that isn't going to be too taxing for those of you who want to keep a 9-to-5 type of job or a part-time job. You don't want something that is going to just consume you. And the solar eclipse in that second house may be new beginnings that are, it's like the seeds being planted far and wide. So it might not just be one thing after all. It might be more than one. And so that could see financial gain, I think. And of course, with Jupiter being in the opposite sign, opposing that house, that's the house of shared resources. So that can come into play too, where other people's resources are also improving, and that helps you indirectly. On the 23rd, Neptune goes retrograde. Neptune is in its own sign of Pisces since 2011 or 2012. Oh, why have I not, solidified that? I don't know. I just keep forgetting. But the Pisces, what house is Pisces? Well, Pisces is the 11th house of hopes and wishes for Taurus. And I'm actually, as I'm talking to you, I'm trying to look it up, but I'm typing with one finger. I'm seeing if sometimes they don't mention when it starts. It's like maddening. They say it's going to be there until 2025, but they did not mention when it started. I believe it was 2012. It has about the same, kind of span as Pluto. It's a generational planet. And this is... Okay, I just saw it. It was February 3rd, 2012. And it's funny because I just happened to just look this up, and somebody wrote, it's called starcrazypie.com. I kind of like that name. It's kind of goofy. Starcrazy, and they titled their article, Neptune in Pisces 2020. It's a seriously bad trip. And there's it's very interesting because Neptune is associated with a lot of confusion and deception, and now that Jupiter has left Sagittarius, we haven't had that kind of square forming from Jupiter to Neptune that just created a lot of distortion with truth and with doing deceptive things that can be associated with Neptune, but that hasn't ended. We have had exposés, we've had things kind of that were considered conspiracy theories come in the last 8 years, come out and be exposed, especially in the last year when Jupiter was still in Sagittarius, because Sagittarius loves the truth. But now we're dealing, even with a sextile, we're dealing with still this sense of la la land and things like that. And when Neptune goes retrograde, it actually lets people in on some of that delusion, if you will. And for you, Taurus, in the 11th house, this can involve people that you think of as your friends. You may find out that a friend or group of friends or a group that you belong to, and it could even be a spiritual group, I guess, isn't what it is cracked up to be. And that can feel disillusioning because you may have put your trust in it, your faith in it, and it's showing itself to be less than honorable, truthful, whatever you want to call it. This can also be regarding something that you have wanted, a goal that you realized maybe was a little bit unrealistic, and it feels like you've lost something, but actually, Neptune in this house until 2025, that was a firecracker, but a big one, means that you may be somebody who is not going to give up on your dreams. And Neptune helps you to dream big. It's almost like Jupiter. Actually, Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Neptune. So, I mean, of Pisces. I don't think a planet can be the ruler of another planet. So, forget I just said that. But yeah, but there's that kind of connection between Pisces and Jupiter as well. And Pisces is ruled by Neptune. So, don't feel like, oh, all is lost. If you discover something is not exactly as easy to manifest as you thought it was. These are long-range goals, though, so it's just kind of like becoming more realistic about it. This is a very idealistic house, so Neptune may have helped you to even go further into that, excitement of imagining it. And when you're practicing the law of attraction, I think that is absolutely crucial. That stage of really just feeling those excited feelings for the manifestation, but you have to realize that there are different components. There also has to be a viability about your dreams coming true. On the 25th, Venus goes direct, and like I said, for some people, this will be in their second house. For some, it will be in their first house. I'm not going to get too much into that because so if it for those of you that Venus is going direct in your first house, you may have even been wondering about whether or not you want to have an extreme makeover or some kind of beauty makeover. They always say don't get your hair cut when Venus is retrograde, or don't get, I think, plastic surgery. I have no plans to get plastic surgery. But, just anything that is a big change physically, because then you might regret it. Well, I mean, is that the end of the world? I don't think so. So to me, Venus retrograde is more about really putting your money where your mouth is in terms of what you stand for, value-wise, and how much does money really matter in the long run? And it's not to say that money doesn't ever matter. Sometimes money is a symbolism of something else. Like if somebody wins a lawsuit, the money may just be like, hey, this is supposed to represent what you took from me in a different area. It's not supposed to really make up for it. It can't make up for it. Like if somebody sues because their child dies because of some kind of a drug reaction that was not listed on the label or something, no amount of money can really, make the person feel like justice is occurring, but at least it's something. So anyway, I didn't want to end on that note, but you know what I mean. I like to give these examples. I hope that you enjoyed this, Taurus. If you'd like a private reading, the link is below. You can check me out at rainamoonastrology.com. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.